Welcome back to Conversations on Innovation. Today is a very, very special edition, I would say, because I have with me Susana from Telefónica. And why do I say it's special? Because first of all, I'm a big fan of Susana's work. And second of all, the whole industry, telecommunication, is very close to my background, and it's very close to stuff I've done previously in my career. So, Susana, good morning, and thank you for being with us on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you first for your kind words about me, and thanks for having me. So, thanks to you as well.
No worries. Tell us a bit more about your role and what you're doing for Telefónica, assuming that everybody knows what Telefónica is doing.
Okay, yeah. Well, so assuming they know what Telefónica is, I've been working at Telefónica now for 21 years now. So I've been quite a few years there, but if I focus in the last years, in particular in the last 8 years, I've been more focused on innovation and strategy. And in my current role, I run the innovation model with our stage gating process. That it's a key tool for managing our innovation projects funnel. I also run the innovation calls where employees can submit their ideas, and if they get selected, to get to work and devote 100% of the time to make them a reality. These are the main source of new projects or internal ventures for our innovation funnel. I'm also in charge of the innovation model evolution, making sure we adapt it to the changes that happen in our context, but also the changes that happens in the company itself. And it's also part of my role, the portfolio analysis, that basically is the key for our portfolio management of our innovation ventures. Also, when I have time, I try to foster conceptualization of new ideas, and whenever I have the opportunity, I mentor and assess some of our innovation ventures. Well, there's another thing I do, but it is kind of voluntary, on voluntary terms. So I'm kind of the Lean Startup evangelist in Telefónica. We have a community going on. I'm the master of the Lean Startup community here. Basically, I run it, and it's a framework we provide employees, and they can join this community, and we share knowledge, we share experiences, and try to improve our skills around this methodology. Well, that's basically it.
So you're the jack of all trades when it comes to innovation management in Telefónica. You have your fingers in so many pies. That's great. I heard you speak at an event.
There are people there, yeah. This is a very company, and there's more people doing innovation management here. So
obviously, but don't be afraid to admit that you're probably the exponent of the movement there. I heard you speak, I think it was last year at an event, when you were talking about being able to do more with less, using a very disciplined approach to innovation management within your company. First of all, what do you mean by that? And second, how do you do it?
Okay. I'll start first with the first question. Yeah, what do you mean by that? In 2012, we redefined our innovation model, making the Lean Startup methodology the core of our way of working, and turning our innovation projects into internal ventures and investing in them in an incremental way. As they progress, we validated learnings, and therefore there is less uncertainty, in a very similar way to the financing rounds of the venture capital world. Basically, this incremental funding that, well, Eric Ries, I think he calls him the metered funding, allows us to minimize the risk, and we are making sure this way that we are investing the minimum resources needed in each moment. So these changes we made, I mean, the way of working and working like internal ventures combined with this metered funding, allowed us in just 18 months after making these changes to be much faster than we were before, we were more than twice faster than we were before in our innovation cycles. And precisely because of this speed combined with this metered funding allows us within the same time frame and budget to test 45% more ideas than we were capable before, investing in average 48% less budget in each project, in each venture. So this is what I mean, that we're capable to do more with less, because if you have less budget, you can still do even more than what you were capable of doing before. But please don't tell these to the finance guys. They can cut our budget, and that's not what we're looking for. Yeah,
exactly. Always.
Yeah, it's important to realize that you have to test a lot of ideas. So here, what you're doing is increasing the probability of finding a successful idea, because you can test more ideas. So the idea is not to decrease the budget, the overall budget of innovation, but to make the most of it.
Got it. Sure, I won't be telling them, and hopefully they won't be listening to this conversation online. You mentioned there something around being twice as fast. Do you mean twice as fast in terms of the time it took from when the idea was conceived to it reaching the market, or what's the exact KPI there when you talk about twice as fast?
It's in all. Let's say in all the innovation cycles, it wasn't only that we were capable of taking to the market faster, but also, and this was kind of an average measure, yeah, twice faster. So, but basically in everything, we were also capable of killing faster, yeah, because that's also very important, yeah. In 3-4 weeks after testing an idea, stopping it because it's not going anywhere, compared to what we did before, that it could even take us months to realize that wasn't getting anywhere. So I'm talking in all the innovation cycles, and I'm talking not only in time to market. I mean, to get the first results, for example, to get the first customer tests or whatever. So it's in all these cycles that we were carrying on, we were faster. So, and this twice faster is like an average of all of them. But basically in everything's not just time to market. And also time to market is quite tricky, yeah, because it's going to depend a lot on the product. For example, if you have like hardware, and we used to have some projects in the past with hardware, that's more difficult. It's more complicated, because you've got certifications to carry out and so on, and it's not that easy. Yeah, so that's kind of tricky. But in average, in general, looking at the different cycles that we have in the process, we were faster, much faster.
Got it. So you have also given us a bit of the tangible results that you had. I want to go back to the how question. So how do you do it? One of the things I actually wrote down, you mentioned meter funding, and I guess a lot of people are familiar with that. What are some other things that you are doing in order to achieve the results you just mentioned, if any?
So are you talking about the how? Because I've realized I didn't answer that question.
Yeah. So I'm talking about how did you accomplish the doing more with less? One of the things you said was yes, we're doing metered funding, and that's allowing us to actually have more ideas and less money and all of that stuff. Are any other things that you've implemented that helped you reach that particular result? And I'm assuming now, methodology-wise, you're using a lot of lean startup and agile.
So basically, yes, there's a combination of a lot of things. And actually, well, it's like we have been testing this for 7 years now. Yeah, so it's like a lot of trials and errors, and it's like trying to summarize like 7 years in a few minutes. Yeah, I'll try to do it. But from my point of view, there are in general 3 key aspects that you have to consider when you do something like that. And one is the people, the other one is the process, and the other one is the organization, and each of them include a lot of things. So for example, if we take the people, one of the important things, and one of the things we needed when we started, was to find entrepreneurs.
we weren't sure if we were going to be able to find them inside the company. So when we started, we thought we had to bring them from startups, but then we realized that in a company of more than 120,000 employees, you do have this talent in the company. And what's more important, they are waiting for an opportunity to emerge and become visible. In fact, our innovation calls, I mentioned them before, have proven to be a very good tool for identifying this talent. But that's not enough concerning people. You also have to set the right mindset, yeah, because working like an entrepreneur implies a different mindset. You're not an achiever, you're more like an explorer, yeah, a different way of doing things. And you have to bear in mind that your entrepreneurs might come from any part of the company, from any department, yeah. So we also realized that we had to train the people and also mentor them, because after training you cannot let them go in solo, yeah. You learn by doing most of the times. But this is also not enough, yeah, because you have to set the right environment for things to happen, and you need to have an environment where you are trusting your entrepreneurs and you are truly giving them autonomy to make decisions, and where you not only allow experimentation but you foster it, yeah. So around people, you have to do all those things. Then if we go to the second aspect that I think it's important, that is the process. Having a process is key, because it's the one that's going to support your entrepreneurship program, yeah. And one of the things that we have realized and we have learned is that this process has to be end to end. It has to go from the definition of your innovation thesis to the market commercialization, going through idea generation, selection, incubation, scaling, and so on. Of course, this doesn't mean you have to have everything up and running from the very beginning. Actually, we didn't have this up and running from the very beginning, and we put it in place gradually, piece by piece. Yeah. And this is a good idea, in fact, because this way you're learning how to make things work in the context of your company, and so it's a good approach. And then the third aspect, and also in the process, this would include the part of I mean, the stage gating process, and also this mentored funding and so on, yeah, basically. And then the third part, I mean, last but not least, you have to consider the rest of the organization, because to build a framework like this one in a large company, you are going to face several challenges. And if you want to succeed facing them, you're going to need a lot of allies. So you're going to need the senior management support. You will also have to rely on other departments like HR, brand, legal, purchases, finance, of course, the business units, and they can all become your allies. But it's very important to sit down with them to understand how they work, explain them what you need and why, and also at the same time try to understand how to help them do their job and achieve their objectives. Yeah, so you can have some sort of win-win situation. And well, you said it also in your book, yeah, but it's absolutely key to align your innovation strategy with the company's strategy, and make sure you are addressing the fundamental needs of the company to get the rest of the organization on board. And of course, you must measure and show that you are creating results, that you're bringing results and impact to the organization, to the business. Well, summarizing, I think those three key aspects are what you have to consider if you want to do something like this, at least in my experience.
That's great. I mean, you're definitely touching on some of the things that I've seen great organizations do, and the organizations that are actually good at innovation do. How does this discipline? It obviously sounds that you're a very disciplined organization. How does this discipline transfer to portfolio management? And basically, what I'm trying to get at here is you've spoken about the innovation pipeline, right? The fact that you have an innovation pipeline and you're constantly managing that. So what are some variables you are considering when making an investment or divesting decision when it comes to a certain venture in the pipeline?
Okay. Well, one of the first things you have to understand when you're managing innovation is that you are going to face high levels of uncertainty, and you have to deal with it and make decisions in this environment. And you are never going to have 100% of certainty when you're making those decisions. So one of the most important things is, okay, look for data, bring data to the table in order to help you with this decision making. Of course, when you're managing a portfolio of internal ventures, and one of the most important, one of the most difficult or toughest decisions you have to make is if you are going to invest or continue investing in one of the ventures or not. And this is because you don't have a crystal ball, so you don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes, obviously, you have to make tough decisions. But as I said before, basically, it's making the decision, bringing data to the table. And what type of data do we consider? Yeah, because another important thing is that when you're making a decision in a stage gate around a particular venture, you don't only have to look at that particular venture. You have to look globally to your portfolio. And you have to consider not only how that particular venture is doing, but consider things like, for example, portfolio balance. And I'm not talking only about the types of innovation, but also maturity. I mean, you have to make sure you have ventures in the different stages, so that there is a flow in your pipeline and new ideas are nurturing your funnel. But you also have, I mentioned it before, you have to align with the company's strategy. So you have to make sure you're addressing with your pipeline the strategic opportunities you have identified for the company. And this means working very closely with the business units and engage them in each and every phase of our process to understand what are those fundamental needs and making sure we are addressing them. Right. Another important thing is when you are looking at a particular venture and then at your portfolio, you have to also consider the cost of opportunity. And you are making the decision if you're going to invest or continue investing in this venture, but you have to ask yourself, am I missing a potentially bigger opportunity? You're trying to understand if this particular venture is the best one to place your available resources. So what we do in this particular case, and when we talk about bringing data to the table to support this decision making, is we gather data around each of this venture, and with this information we compare them with the other ventures we have already in our portfolio, but also with potential opportunities we haven't explored yet. And we compare them in terms of the opportunity they represent, that it's basically the potential business impact forecast we have for each of the ventures. And also we make comparisons and ratios, comparing, for example, the resources each of the ventures are consuming versus the opportunity they represent, or the accumulated cost versus the opportunity they represent. We also estimate, according to the risk each venture is running, we estimate the probability of success of each venture, and then we compare it with the opportunity. Also, we consider the things like, for example, the duration. We have estimated for each of the stages how much time more or less is reasonable. So whenever there is a venture that is taking more time in a particular stage, then we have to understand what's happening there, for example, and if it's normal, or maybe it's because we are just stuck and we are not progressing, and maybe we should look for another opportunity. Also, we consider risk evolution. I mean, when I talked about method funding, I was saying that you invest incrementally as they progress with validated learnings, and the risk should be decreasing, yes, as there is less uncertainty. So we have to make sure that this is happening.
Sure.
And we also track other things. We track also other things like cost of failure or the validation speed to see how I mean, how we are working in general in our funnel. Sorry, go ahead.
Validation speed. No, I had two questions, but now you said something very interesting towards the end. You mentioned there validation speed. This is basically speed of learning, where how fast are they gathering learning, or how do you define validation speed?
Okay, so yeah, I guess each of us define it in a different way, yeah. But
Sure.
basically, what we are trying to understand here is we have defined in our stage gating process, we have different stages defined, yeah. So basically, what we try to find out is how fast are we in each of them. So we just measure. We haven't. I mean, we measure how fast we move from one stage to the other one in each of these stages. I don't know if I explained myself very well, but basically is how fast adventures move from one stage to the next one.
To the next, yeah. Oh, okay. So this is basically your validation speed.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
we have defined as validation speed. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a matter of how we use terms, because what I'm usually suggesting to my clients at venture level, look at their speed of learning, look at how many learnings they get per unit of time, regardless if those learnings are from research or from experiments done, but basically, are they actually making progress? That's what I'm usually suggesting. But I also suggest something similar to what you just said, but I call it a bit different, but that's another conversation. I would say.
How do you call it?
I call it I call it progress speed. Basically, how fast is a venture moving from one stage to the other.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, you could call it like that. The thing is, basically what we do is when a venture starts a certain stage, we define the hypothesis they have to validate during that stage. So basically that's why we call it validation speed, because basically they have hypotheses, they go around those hypotheses, maybe new hypotheses turn up, and but it's not about so much the number, but about how fast are you able to validate all the hypotheses you should validate and around the customer, around the market, around the product, etc. in each of the stages to be able to move to the next phase. But
yeah. No, that's
so in somehow we could do it, but I mean, for us it was more important to make sure that these validation speed meant some sort of progress and not just I mean, you can have a lot of hypotheses being validated or invalidated or tested, but if there is no progress because you're somehow stuck, what does this really show you? You can be very fast validating, but if there is no progress at the same time, for us was it was sort of important for us to make sure that this validation speed not only measured that we were learning, but also we were progressing.
Right. Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of very good input in what you just said. I want to talk about a certain aspect now. So you're basically tracking all these things, and you're measuring all these things, and you're taking decisions based on that. First of all, who is actually taking the decision? Who's responsible for putting this together? Is it you? Is it a group of people? And then the second question will be, how much do you rely on your experience of going to a room and meeting with one of your ventures, and then immediately understand where they sit and what they need to be doing, versus a more analytical approach, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll go and answer the first question. Basically, I think everybody has a role here. Yeah, it's not to make this work. Everybody's important. Yeah, so I mean, entrepreneurs are teams. They are not only proposing ideas, but they're also testing their hypotheses in the market with customers. They are collecting evidences, and they are also making decisions, sometimes even tough decisions like stopping the venture and so on. And then there's not just one person, there's managers in general. And I mean, it's very difficult that only one person has like the overall knowledge to make a decision. I mentioned it before, there is a lot of uncertainty, and even if you bring data to the table, you need a lot of minds in this decision making. So managers are also important. And I'm not talking only about the innovation organization. I'm also talking about people from the business units. Yeah. So the managers make portfolio decisions, but also they are important because they have another role, is ensuring the teams have the resources and the support they need to move forward, and ensuring they have this safe environment where they can experiment and make decisions. Yeah. But also, I mentioned it before, even the rest of the organization and all the departments like HR, legal, and finance have also their role. And actually in our stage gate committees, the people from human resources and finance are part of this stage gating committee. So in reality, I think everybody is involved somehow in the decisions, maybe in different levels, but they are all involved somehow in the decisions, and also they all have an important role in making all this happening. And now the second question, but I think I forgot the second question. Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, the second question was, how much do you rely on experience? Obviously, on yourself and the people that that are part of taking the decision. Obviously, you guys have a lot of experience because you work at Telefónica, and Telefónica is known to be a front runner when it comes to innovation and agile. So obviously, you have a lot of experience under your belt. But my question is, how much do you rely on that experience of those people versus, let's say, a more analytical approach, numbers and whatnot?
Basically, I would dare say we use both of them. Yeah, because I mean, it's important not to base only on history, because on the history and the knowledge you have, because you can be somehow tempted to say, oh, things like we have tried that in the past and it didn't work. So you might not be open to see maybe things are changing now, and maybe by the evidences that the ventures bring to the table, you realize that something has changed. So you have to adapt and evolve. So it's not only about that. It's not only about the experience you have and also what you have seen and what, I mean, I talk about everybody, yes, about the experience everybody has. But also sometimes, even if when teams bring evidences, they have like their special view, and it's a view that is very focused only on the particular venture. And they think that and in many cases, they think the venture is progressing wonderfully. And it's then when you have to bring the experience there and say, look, this is what happened with this other venture. This is what happened in this other project, and so on. And we realize that this number is not enough. So basically, it's a combination of both things. Yeah, one, because it's like evidence is from the market and data in general bring you information that makes you somehow test your knowledge, but also at the same time, sometimes it's like bringing your knowledge there, and also sometimes even your gut feeling that comes from this experience you had in the past and so on, and have a combination of both of them. So I think both of them are very important. I don't know if I answered.
Got it. Yeah, no, totally.
Your question.
No, totally you did. Because my thesis is, and again, what I'm advising other companies and people when I'm speaking with them, I say, yeah, it's great you have a process in place. It's great that you have you have designed your process, but you need to train your people in order to know how to operate it, because if they don't have that experience of having run ventures, having taken investments and investment decisions, then the system in itself will not help you achieve your desired results. So yeah, I think you answered it very well, mentioning that it's a combination between the experience of the people and actual analytical data behind each venture.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Perfect. As we are nearing our 20 minutes mark, is there anything else you would like to share with us regarding regarding managing a portfolio and managing a pipeline of innovation?
Well, I think that we have talked about portfolio management. I think there's also one important thing, that is we have talked about making decisions, but from my point of view, there is something that is very complicated, is when you make the decision of stopping a venture.
Okay.
We say that you have to master the art of killing, because it's not,
I like
yeah,
that.
you have to master the art of killing. I mean, making decisions and making a decision to stop to stop a venture that is not progressing and showing promising results gives you the opportunity to test our ideas. Yeah, so that's absolutely clear. But what happens with a venture you have stopped? Yeah, actually, one of the things we realize is that to master this art of killing it's very important to communicate the rationale behind the decision you make. So everybody, not only the venture, but the rest of the people, the rest of the organization understands why you have decided to kill it. And also another important thing is that you have to devote some time for a debriefing or a postmortem to get all those learnings that this venture has, and disseminate them in the organization, because this is a very good way for the team to understand that their work, all their motivation, all their time invested, it's going somewhere actually, and it's bringing something useful for the company, because it's very, yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. How do you ensure the fact that people feel okay in presenting the facts that don't support don't support that particular venture going forward?
So basically, another important thing for us is, apart from what I said before, it's making the most of the learnings. It's also that when a venture is killed, we relocate the people in other ventures. We don't fire them or just suddenly, okay, look for another place in the organization or whatever. We just relocate them in other part of the organization, or even test new ideas, for example. Yeah. So basically what we are telling them this way is, this is not the end of the world. Life goes on. You're working on a venture that is not progressing, but you get the opportunity to work and test other ideas that might progress, or work or join a team of another venture that is progressing and it's growing because it's showing promising results. So you show them that you have learned, we all have learned something, so it's okay. And you also have a future here, so it's not the end of the world. And actually, when you have this kind of safe net, what might happen is that, I mean, nobody wants to work in a venture that is somehow stuck. Yeah. We have had cases in which it has been the own entrepreneur that has said, this is not going anywhere, let's kill the venture. And they have gone to the stage gate and said, let's kill it, because we are not going, not even pivoting or whatever, we are not getting anywhere, we are not showing the results we were expecting. And this is amazing when this happens. And I think it's because it's just not only because this safe net, but also because of the way we are working with Lean Startup, Agile, and so on. They are facing reality every day. They are just looking at the evidences in the market. And also this, I mean, the combination of this with the safe net is what makes these sort of things happening. And we have several examples of this. So I think it's something that we don't pay too much attention to it, especially at the beginning, yeah, because you're focused on so many things around portfolio management. But how you kill projects, I think it's or ventures, it's also very, very important.
Totally, and I'm assuming this is one of the skills that the people that are part of the decision making are learning every day.
Yeah. Well, at least we try to, yeah. Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect. Yeah, but I mean, once you have a process and you define that when a project is killed, you have to carry out a debriefing and you have to work with human resources and so on. I mean, once you have a process that is supporting your whole program, your whole venture is easier because it's like part of your day-to-day job. Yeah, but
Right.
it doesn't mean killing a project is still a tough decision, because it is.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's easier said than done, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. All right, cool. First of all, thank you very much for this lovely interview. I've personally have tons of notes here in front of me from you. It's always like this when I speak with you. I always leave with more things to think about and more things to ponder over. First of all, thank you for that, and second of all, I wish you the best of luck moving forward and pushing your system forward and actually showing to the world that large organizations can actually be good at innovation, and you are probably an exponent of the let's say corporate innovation movement in the world.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the time, and also when are you going to publish your book? Because I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it. I'm sure I can learn a lot from you and from other companies, because I'm sure you're also interviewing other people from other companies. So
regarding the innovation accounting book, we're hoping to release sometimes after the mid of this year. It really depends on the time that we have to allocate to writing. So this is actually one of the weeks when I'm supposed to be writing a lot.
Okay, so well, I'm waiting for it. So
perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I also learn a lot from you in every conversation. So